Lesson 4 is line with tone, and the tool that we're going to use to draw with today is a brush, and as a result it will be a wet drawing rather than a dry drawing that you would produce with a pencil. Wet drawings are interesting because they get us nearer to painting. I don't want to talk today about the difference between painting and drawing, but this is a drawing that gets us on the way to painting. Now, what are you doing when you draw with tone? Basically, you're translating the lights and darks you see in nature onto a piece of paper. If you look at my hand, this side is lighter than this side. And that is what allows us to see the hand as a three-dimensional thing. If I hold it up like that, it's light on one side, dark on the other. And it is those differences in tonal value that allow us to describe things on paper. Now, if we move to the drawing, you'll see the left-hand side of the man's face is in light and the right in dark. That is what makes it look real and convincing. If we look at his leg, his thigh on the right-hand side is in bright light. Drop down to his feet and you see the shadow that he casts. So in the drawing, we know that the light is shining from left to right. Now, very interesting thing about controlling tone with a brush is how you can either do it by the darkness of the ink that you use, so you could use a dark ink as Romney has used on the right-hand arm of the figure, or you could use a much lighter ink as it appears to be on the left-hand side of the figure. Now, another way of varying it, if you look at the wiggly line that's kind of going through his legs at the bottom of the drawing, is by how much ink you have on the brush. You can see a lighter line. Now, as it gets lighter, running along the top of that squiggly line, you will see that there is what's called a dry brush moving across the paper, just leaving a light touch. So this is a much more complicated drawing to work with. If you want to make it simple, you could take a photograph, you could trace it, you could make a simple pencil drawing onto a piece of paper and then work energetically over it with a brush. Now, the reason I say energetically is because the point of using a wet substance to work with and a flexible-ended brush is that it transfers the energy of your body into the image on the paper. It isn't a dry graphic process like you carefully working around the edge of a leaf with a very pointed instrument. You're working with something that flows and is rhythmic. And of course, an important thing, an important part of drawing is that it should have atmosphere, it should have energy, it should have rhythm, and that is what brushes are good for and what very hard pencils are not so good for. So this first lesson in tone also introduces the possibility of using a softer, a more lyrical, more flexible medium. So the fourth lesson introduces not simply tone, but an ability to use tone in a more energetic, lively and imaginative way.